Hello, welcome to episode 6 of Social Anxiety Live. Last time, Sarah interviewed myself about my own experiences with social anxiety, my challenges, and my coping mechanisms for when I experience social anxiety. So today we are turning the table. So it's my turn to interview Sarah about the experiences that she has with social anxiety.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I'm a bit nervous. It's quite hard, isn't it, sometimes talking about yourself, but I'm going to do my best. And I'm ready for your questions.
Good. Okay. So I remember the first question you asked me last time was about when I first realised that I had social anxiety. So I'd like to ask you the same question to get things started. When did you first realise?
Well, I actually related a lot to your answer because when I was a child, I was really quiet. So like all my teachers at school, if I had a parents' evening or just any kind of conversation with my parents, the teachers would always say, she's very quiet. It would be nice if she participated more or put her hand up more. I just wasn't a particularly confident child at school. But I didn't necessarily see it as social anxiety. And then even going into like secondary school, I had a very small group of friends, but we were really close. And again, I was kind of aware that I wasn't super confident and I was quite quiet compared to a lot of other people. It was really only as an adult that I identified it as anxiety and social anxiety.
Did you feel that at school, academically, you were seen as sort of being on track, you were doing really well with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I never had any issues academically. I worked really hard, and the teachers would always talk about the fact that I was focused, I was doing really well. It was the putting your hand up and giving answers or having to do presentations, things like that, I found really difficult. I just never wanted to be the center of attention. I never wanted everyone's eyes on me. And that's even now as an adult, it's not something I particularly enjoy.
Do you feel that your experiences at school make you empathise with maybe children that you now teach? Do you see it in classes that you've taught across your teaching career?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely children that I can see are really similar to how I was, in that they struggle a little bit with confidence in class and they're reluctant to answer questions. And I know something I have a little bit of an issue with. So as a teacher, you have these sort of methods and these strategies you're meant to use. And one thing that some schools are very keen on is that lollipop stick thing. So you put every child's name on a lollipop stick and then you just pull out the name and they have to answer your question. And as a child, I would have absolutely hated that. That would have given me anxiety. And so that's something I don't necessarily agree with as a method in schools, because I could see how that could actually be quite stressful for some children.
So then, do you think there's still the sort of expectation is that you demonstrate understanding or something you've listened to through talking? Is that still the case, or is there more shift towards other forms of communication being equally as valid?
I think there's been some progress, but I think there's a lot more progress that needs to be made, because I think there's still that negative stigma with being quiet. It's never said as a good thing. It's always, well, they're doing really well, but they're very quiet. But it would be nice if they participated more. So I think there's definitely progress that still needs to be made to not see it as a negative.
I completely agree, and I can sort of resonate a lot with what I said on the last episode.
Yeah.
With that. Do you think that there are specific situations with you that trigger your social anxiety the most?
Yes, definitely. I think we've talked about this previously, in that my social anxiety is not a sort of daily thing, and I don't have anxiety with things like going to the shop. but I really struggle in situations where I have to be in large groups of people. And when I say large, that could be 4 or 5 people. And I have to be in large groups of people where I don't know a lot of them. So anything where I'm invited to a party, could be like a wedding, it could be some kind of gathering with, friends, but anything where it's a large number of people and I don't know a vast majority of them, those are the situations where my anxiety is at its worst.
And when you've had to or chosen to go to events like that, can you give us a sense of how you feel before, during, and after such an event?
Yes. Okay, I'm trying to think of it. Well, there's a specific one that I immediately think of, which I think was probably last year. And it was an event where I was not going to know I think I knew 2 people, and there was going to be about 50 people there. And immediately on hearing that I was going to go to this event, I got really anxious, and immediately those thoughts started of, right, who am I going to talk to? Am I going to be okay? How are people going to view me? What are people going to think about me? And this was kind of weeks in advance. So it was something I immediately kind of had a very low level anxiety about. And then obviously as the event approached, I was finding it really difficult because my anxiety was increasing and I was thinking about it more and more. So I would just be at home and I'd start thinking about it and I'd start worrying about it. And then I think the day before and the morning of the event was really quite difficult. I sometimes when I get really bad anxiety, I just go really quiet because my thoughts are going so fast. I think I'm just thinking so much that I find myself not talking. So I was really quiet in the morning and I was just really panicking about it. And it was like a bit of a fight or flight feeling of just, I really don't want to go. I want to, avoid this, but I know I can't. And then I was very shaky and I just didn't feel good. And I have to say, the actual event was fine. Once I was there, after probably like maybe an hour, I kind of settled and I was like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. Everyone's been really nice. I think I'm okay now. I'd had a couple drinks, so that had helped calm me down. And actually it was quite nice. And I, quite enjoyed it while I was there. And then afterwards I did feel quite proud of myself because I thought, wow, I did it. I went and I really didn't want to, but like I did it. And I remember feeling really proud and I remember feeling really exhausted.
Yeah, it's almost that, or that more than almost, I feel that after you've done the event itself, you get home, you need the next day to recover.
Yeah.
And I've had it before where I've been to something and the day after someone has messaged, do you want to go out?
Yeah.
Or are you free? I said, yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
But then I say to people, well, I've actually specifically given that day to do nothing, to recover, to sort of lounge about, to do not very much at all.
Yeah, just a day to yourself, just to, as you said, I don't think people realise quite how exhausting and how much it takes out of you going to events like that.
I resonate with something particularly you said during that answer where you were talking about the overthinking and getting yourself into such a state.
Yeah.
I found something recently where it wasn't an event as such, but it was somewhere where I was overthinking something a lot. I was at the I'm going to call it an event, and we were talking about something in particular. It was work related, and I was thinking and thinking and thinking, but it was a different sort of thinking where the thing that we were talking about, I kept thinking about a lot and lot and lot, and I had to get something to fiddle with.
Yeah.
I got one of my sensory things to use at the time because I was overthinking it, and I couldn't quite get it into sort of a succinct answer.
Yeah.
But the difference I had is the other people who were present there recognised that.
Yeah.
And just said, take your time.
Yeah.
But then I compare that to socially, I find that it's a different form of overthinking.
Yeah.
And I think you sort of get yourself in you can get yourself in such a state about it, then you either think it's best to avoid it, or you go through it and you try and do the best you can with it. Sort of moving on a bit now, do you find, sort of in this age of social media, do you find that it does any form of social media, has that affected your social anxiety in any way? Because we do form these sort of social communities online now, like with groups, community groups, or whatever. Do you find there's any social anxiety with that?
I would say more so when I was younger. I think probably when I was a teenager, maybe even in my 20s, sort of early to mid 20s, I think social media can absolutely feed into social anxiety, because you see people going out and doing things, or you get invited to something, you don't go, and then everyone's posting photos of it, and it sort of makes you feel worse and more aware of your situation and your anxiety. I think now that I'm older and I'm in my 30s, to be honest, I'm not on a huge amount of social media. Like, I have a few, but I'm not particularly active on a lot of them. And I just think with growing in age, I'm a bit more confident in myself, in that I'm not going to look at photos now and feel left out, or, I think I've got a bit more confidence in myself to not let things like that really affect me.
So along with that, do you have any other specific strategies that you use to overcome your social anxiety?
I think for me, talking about social anxiety really does help, and having people that understand it and want to know about it and want to learn about it. Because sometimes I think when you talk about social anxiety, I sometimes feel almost bad about it, or I feel guilty that I'm kind of putting it on this other person, or I feel a bit embarrassed. But if someone really genuinely shows interest and wants to understand what I go through and what helps me, that really helps. I mean, I don't know if that's a strategy, but talking about it, having people want to talk about it with me is really helpful. Having people that understand it. I think it's not great to say, but having a drink sometimes helps me. So if I'm going to a social event, if I go and just have a little drink before, sometimes that just calms me. I kind of agree with you. I've had times when my anxiety has been really bad and I've just had to take myself somewhere else. So sometimes I think if your anxiety is really high and you're just sitting around at home, it's not going to get any better. You have to take yourself away and just be in a different environment. So sometimes that helps me.
I mean, going back to, you're talking about sort of people and their understanding of social anxiety.
Yeah.
Is there specific things you wish that people understood more about social anxiety?
Well, I thought it was really nice what you said when you said you have friends that will sort of say to you, like, I understand this might be too much, so if you don't want to come, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's great. Like, that's the perfect way to be with someone with social anxiety, is having that understanding of saying, as much as I would love you to go to this, I totally understand if you don't want to, and not making someone feel like they have to do something is really important. And I think just for me, asking me, just say to me, what, can I do anything? Like, what would help you feel better? Because if I'm comfortable with you and you ask me that question, I'm going to be very open. I'm going to tell you, this is what you can do right now to help me.
And bringing it all together now, you talked right at the start about your awareness and experiences of social anxiety at a young age.
Yeah.
And now that you know more about it and more confident and more aware of it, if you could give your younger self advice on social anxiety, what would you tell your younger self?
I guess quite similar to what you said, actually. I would just say to have a bit more confidence in myself, to not worry about what other people think of me, to focus on the positives in my life, because I think it's so easy to compare yourself to other people and say, well, she is really confident. Look at all her friends. And then you're not really appreciating what you've got. Like I, growing up, didn't have loads of friends, but the friends I had were amazing and we were really close. And I was really quiet, but I was a really good listener. I wish I just would have appreciated the good things about myself more, had a bit more self-confidence. And I would probably just reassure myself that, as you get older, you will learn to deal with it a bit better. But also, as you get older, you're going to do so many things that you at the moment don't think is possible. Like you will really actually go out of your comfort zone a lot more than you probably think you will.
I completely agree with that. I think all of what you said, I completely get it. And then sort of bringing it all together, because I think we've got to episode 6 now.
Yeah.
And initially, when we planned this all out, this was going to be our last one. But through the 6 episodes that we've done, what do you think's? What's your takeaway? What's your takeaway from the whole process of the podcast? From like what we've talked about, our dialogue between each other, shared experiences. Is there something you would take away from the whole experience?
Yeah, for me, it's just been a really positive experience. I mean, we talk very openly, I think, with each other generally, about our anxiety. But it's been really nice having other people relate and talk about their own experiences. And I just would like to think it's kind of maybe made a few people feel a bit less alone with it and just feel that they can talk about it more. For me, I've realised through these 6 episodes actually how beneficial it is to talk openly about social anxiety, and it's, I think, given me a bit more confidence to talk about it. And I've actually quite enjoyed talking about it. It's been really nice to hear your experiences, because not all of our experiences are the same, but there's definitely some crossover. So yeah, for me, it's just been a really positive experience, and it's been nice to talk openly about it. And I feel like going forward, I don't quite know how I'm going to take this forward, but I think I'm going to take it forward with a lot more confidence.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said. I think that moving forward, I'd almost like to create some kind of like forum for other people to come together, to share their experiences, to talk about what they go through. As I said before, I think people have talked to me about things and I would not have guessed or had any inkling that that's the way they felt.
Yeah.
One person contacted me via social media last weekend because they were doing something out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that they'd agreed to quite a while ago to do.
Yeah.
They were worried about how they were coming across during this particular thing that they were doing.
Yeah.
And they asked if I would listen to what they produced.
Oh, okay.
And actually, it was good. I mean, once they'd done it, they felt good and they got positive feedback from it. And actually just sort of brings home the fact that the anxiety is actually, it's worrying about something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it's almost when you do it and experience it and make, sort of push yourself through it, ends up being okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And just on that note, that reminded me actually that someone, I won't say who, but someone in my immediate family actually listened to the episodes and then sent me a really nice message saying he actually related to a lot of what we'd said, which surprised me. So I just think having that feedback and seeing that we're not alone, there's a lot of people in the same boat.
I think that's a really pertinent point to end on, about there's lots of people out there with it, and it's a matter of reaching out for support when you need it and knowing where it is. But I think the whole 6 episodes has been very enlightening, and the impact it's had with people messaging us has been quite touching.
Yeah,
in a way.
Lovely.
So episode 6, I think that's
a wrap.
Finished for now. Whether we do any more or not,
Yeah.
We'll think about it based on feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're still very open to feedback or suggestions. You know, we'd still like to keep the conversation going, and we do have our Facebook page. So feel free to put some comments on there.
Definitely a huge thank you to anyone that has listened to even one episode, two episodes, all the whole lot. It's much appreciated.
Yes, thank you so much.